She was supposed to die the night her alpha mate rejected her. Every wolf knew the truth. A rejected bond slowly destroys the soul, severing a wolf from the moon itself. And as she lay trembling beneath the silver sky, surrounded by whispers of humiliation, it seemed certain her story was ending. Moments earlier, before elders, warriors, and rivals alike, Alpha heir Kale Draven had looked into her eyes, felt the sacred bond awaken, and chosen to break it. His rejection didn't just wound her heart, it shattered something ancient. But while the pack turned away, believing fate had abandoned her, the moon above never looked away. Because that night, instead of losing her destiny, she was about to become something no wolf had ever survived. Subscribe and tell us where you're watching from as we dive in. So Chapter 1. The night destiny turned against her. The moon rose wrong that night, not dim, not distant, not the quiet, familiar guardian that had watched over Blood-Ridge territory for generations. It rose enormous, swollen and impossibly bright, spilling silver across the sky as though the heavens themselves had drawn closer to earth. Clouds drifted slowly around it like reverent spirits, unable to hide its brilliance. The forest shimmered beneath its glow, every leaf edged in pale light, every shadow stretched long and trembling. The wolves of Blood-Ridge pack called it a blessing. The elders called it a sign, and deep in her chest, Elara Vance felt it as a warning. The clearing had never looked more alive. Torches burned in a wide circle around sacred stones older than memory, their flames crackling against the cool night air. Yet warriors stood proudly in ceremonial attire, their laughter loud and confident. Young wolves whispered excitedly, anticipation sparking through the crowd like wildfire. Tonight was the mate ceremony, the most sacred night in a wolf's life. The night destiny revealed who belonged to whom. Elara lingered at the edge of the gathering, exactly where she preferred to be. Unseen, the soft fabric of her pale dress brushed against her ankles as she kept her gaze lowered, pretending fascination with the grass beneath her feet. She had chosen the simplest gown she owned, hoping its modest design would help her disappear among the brighter, stronger, more admired wolves. It never truly worked. People noticed her, but not kindly. Whispers drifted around her like cold wind. And the healer's daughter, the disgraced bloodline. Poor thing, no alpha would ever choose her. Elara pretended not to hear. She had learned long ago that survival in Blood-Ridge meant silence. Her mother had once been the pack's most respected healer until a failed cure claimed the life of a high-ranking warrior. Whether the death had been fate or mistake no longer mattered. Blame settled quickly, and respect vanished overnight. Since then, Elara existed in a strange space between belonging and exile, allowed to stay, never truly accepted. She folded her hands tightly together, steadying her breathing as excitement grew louder around her. One by one, wolves stepped toward the center stone, awaiting the moment when the moon would awaken dormant bonds. Some laughed nervously. Others held hands with hopeful partners. Lady Elara expected nothing. She had trained herself not to hope. Her wolf, quiet, gentle, and strangely subdued compared to others, rarely reacted strongly to anything. While others spoke of overwhelming instincts and burning anticipation as their 21st birthday approached, Elara had felt only calm emptiness. Perhaps she simply wasn't meant for destiny. Perhaps some wolves were born to watch rather than belong. A sudden cheer erupted from the crowd, pulling her attention upward, and then she saw him. Kyle Draven. The alpha heir stood near the sacred stone, surrounded by warriors who instinctively gave him space. Moonlight seemed drawn to him, illuminating sharp features and powerful shoulders shaped by years of combat training. Confidence radiated from him effortlessly. Not arrogance exactly, but certainty. He was strength made visible. Future alpha. Leader born, not made. Every wolf respected him. Many feared him. Most admired him. Elara swallowed quickly, lowering her gaze. She told herself she was only observing like everyone else. Yet something inside her always reacted when he entered a space. A quiet pull she had never understood. Not desire exactly, not admiration, recognition, as if some part of her already knew him. Kyle laughed at something a warrior beside him said, the sound deep and warm, and for a fleeting second his gaze swept across the clearing. It passed over her without pause. Of course it did. Why would it linger? The ceremony began as Elder Marrow stepped forward, his silver hair glowing beneath moonlight. The clearing slowly quieted until only the crackle of torches and distant night insects remained. Tonight, the elder announced, voice carrying effortlessly, the moon reveals what has always been written. Bonds older than memory, connections stronger than choice. Elara exhaled slowly. She only needed to endure the night, nothing more. One by one, wolves stepped forward. Some gasped as bonds formed instantly, laughter and tears blending together. Others felt nothing and returned quietly to the crowd. Hope rose and fell in waves. Elara remained untouched. Relief slowly settled into her chest. Maybe she would leave unnoticed after all. Then the wind changed. It swept suddenly through the clearing, extinguishing several torches at once. The flames flickered wildly before steadying again. Conversations faltered as an uneasy silence fell. The moon brightened, not gradually, instantly. Silver light poured downward, stronger than before, illuminating the center of the clearing until the sacred stone glowed. Elara's breath caught. A strange warmth spread through her chest, faint at first, like distant sunlight beneath skin. Her wolf stirred. For the first time in years, the sensation intensified rapidly, transforming warmth into heat, then pressure, then something sharp and undeniable pulling her forward. Her feet moved before her mind understood why. Across the clearing, Kale froze. His laughter died mid-breath. His head turned slowly. Their eyes met. The world stopped. The bond snapped into place with violent clarity. It felt like lightning striking directly through her soul. Overwhelming, breathtaking, terrifyingly right. Emotion surged through her. Recognition, longing, belonging so powerful it nearly stole her balance. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Every wolf felt it. A mating bond this strong radiated outward like thunder. Elara's heart raced as realization dawned. Him, her mate, was Kale Draven. For one fragile, impossible moment, hope bloomed inside her chest. Kale stepped forward. The crowd parted instantly, murmurs growing louder. Elara's pulse thundered as instinct urged her closer. Her wolf reached toward his, eager, trusting. This was destiny. This was belonging. Kyle stopped several feet away and hesitated. Confusion flickered across his face. Then disbelief. Then something colder. His jaw tightened. The warmth inside Elara faltered. No, he said quietly. The word barely carried, but it cut deeper than a scream. Elder Marrow frowned. Alpha heir, the bond... No, Cal repeated louder now. The entire clearing fell silent. Elara felt the connection stretching painfully between them, fragile but undeniable. She waited, heart trembling, certain he only needed a moment to accept what fate had chosen. Instead, Kale took a step backward. The movement felt like a physical blow. This is wrong, he declared, voice ringing across the clearing. A mistake. Whispers exploded instantly. Elara's breath shook. Kyle. He didn't look at her with warmth. He looked at her like a problem. I cannot accept this bond, he said, each word deliberate. I will not tie the future of Bloodridge to weakness. The crowd murmured louder. Heat rushed to Elara's face as understanding slowly, painfully formed. He meant her. I need a Luna who strengthens the pack, Kale continued. Not the daughter of scandal. Not someone unfit to stand beside an alpha. The words struck like blades, and the bond between them twisted violently, pain radiating through her chest. Her wolf whimpered, confused and wounded. Gasps echoed around them. No one spoke in her defense. No one stepped forward. Kyle's voice softened slightly, but not kindly. This bond is rejected. The moment shattered. Pain exploded through Elara, stealing breath from her lungs. The warmth that had filled her moments ago collapsed into freezing emptiness. Rejected. Before everyone. Her vision blurred as whispers surged. Rejected, mate. How humiliating. She was never worthy. She could not breathe, could not think. The sacred clearing felt suddenly too small, too bright, too cruel. Kyle turned away, just like that, as though destiny meant nothing, as though she meant nothing. Something ancient inside her cracked, without realizing she had moved. Elara stepped backward, then turned, then walked, each step heavier than the last. No one stopped her. No one called her name. The crowd parted eagerly, whispers trailing behind like shadows. Tears burned her eyes, but she refused to let them fall where others could see. She would not break in front of them. Not tonight. Not ever again. The sounds of celebration slowly resumed behind her, painfully normal, as though her world had not just ended. She crossed the edge of the clearing and entered the forest. Cool night air wrapped around her, carrying the scent of pine and damp earth. The farther she walked, the quieter the pack's voices became, until only the rhythm of her footsteps remained. The bond still lingered faintly, a broken thread tugging weakly at her heart. Why didn't it disappear? Rejected mates were supposed to feel emptiness. Instead, she felt watched. The moonlight followed her through the trees, brighter than it should have been beneath thick branches. Elara stopped walking. Slowly, she lifted her gaze toward the sky. The enormous silver moon hung directly above her, closer than before, brighter, almost alive. A strange shiver ran through her body. Not cold, not fear, recognition. The forest fell unnaturally silent. Even the wind stilled, and for one impossible moment, the moon seemed to pulse, as though it had noticed her, as though it had been waiting. A sudden warmth flickered beneath her skin, faint, unfamiliar, awakening. Elara's breath caught, the air around her shimmered, and somewhere deep within the forest, something ancient began to stir. The rejection had ended one destiny, but it had just awakened another, and Elara had no idea she was no longer alone. A sharp flash of silver light burst through the trees behind her. Elara turned and realized the shadows were moving toward her, not hunting, kneeling, as if the forest itself had begun to bow. To her. Chapter 2. The Girl Who Ran into the Forbidden Forest. The shadows were moving toward her, not hunting, kneeling. Elara's breath caught painfully in her throat as silver light rippled across the forest floor like liquid moonlight. One by one, dark shapes emerged between the ancient trees. Wolves, their eyes glowing faintly in the darkness. But they did not stalk her. They lowered themselves. Heads bowed. Submission. The sight made no sense. Her heart hammered wildly as instinct screamed at her to run. Wild wolves never bowed. Rogues especially avoided pack wolves, driven by survival and distrust. Yet these creatures, scarred, powerful, unmistakably dangerous, knelt as though before royalty. I don't understand, she whispered, voice trembling. The air hummed softly in response. A pulse of silver light spread outward from her feet, brushing across fallen leaves and roots. Wherever it touched, the forest seemed to awaken. Flowers opened despite the night. Branches swayed though no wind moved them. Fear surged through her chest. This wasn't normal. None of this was normal. The wolves lifted their heads slightly, watching her with quiet reverence, but none stepped closer. They waited, patient, almost protective. Elara stumbled backward. I'm not who you think I am. Her voice sounded small against the vast silence. The warmth beneath her skin flared again, stronger this time, spreading through her veins like liquid fire. It didn't burn. It pulsed, steady and alive, syncing with the rhythm of her heartbeat. She turned and ran. Branches brushed her arms as she pushed deeper into Silverwood Forest, leaving the kneeling wolves behind. Her breath came sharp and uneven, emotions crashing violently inside her. Kyle's voice echoed relentlessly in her mind. I will not tie the future of Bloodridge to weakness. The words struck again and again, each repetition reopening the wound. Tears finally spilled down her cheeks as she ran blindly through the trees. She hadn't realized how much she had hoped. Not for love, she had never allowed herself that dream, but for belonging. For one moment of being chosen instead of tolerated. And he had looked at her like she was an embarrassment fate had forced upon him. Her chest tightened painfully. The mating bond still lingered faintly, like an echo refusing to fade. Every step away from the pack stretched it thinner, sharper, until it felt like a thread cutting into her heart. I didn't ask for this, she whispered brokenly. The forest answered with silence. Silverwood grew stranger the deeper she went. The trees rose impossibly tall, their trunks pale as bone, their leaves glowing faintly under moonlight. Mist curled along the ground, brushing her ankles like curious fingers. Stories flooded her memory. Warnings told to young wolves. Never enter Silverwood. The moon walks there. Those who go too far never return the same. Her legs weakened. Exhaustion crept over her suddenly, overwhelming and heavy. An emotional pain drained her strength faster than any physical wound. Each breath grew harder to draw. Finally, her knees buckled. Elara collapsed against the base of a massive tree, its bark smooth and cold against her back. She tried to stand again, but dizziness forced her still. The forest spun slowly around her. Her heartbeat sounded too loud in her ears, too slow. The broken mating bond pulsed painfully once, twice, then faded into distant numbness. Panic flickered faintly. Rejected mates were supposed to weaken. Some lost their wolves entirely. Some never woke from the emotional shock. Is this how it ends? She wondered faintly. The thought didn't frighten her as much as it should have. She felt empty. Above her, the enormous moon burned brighter, its light pouring through the canopy in a single concentrated beam. It fell directly onto her. Silver illuminated her hands, her face, her trembling chest. The light felt warm, impossibly warm, wrapping around her like an embrace. Her breathing slowed. The pain in her chest softened. A strange calm replaced despair. The air shimmered. Elara blinked slowly. Certain exhaustion was making her hallucinate. The moonlight thickened, almost tangible, swirling gently around her body. Tiny sparks of silver drifted through the air like falling stars. And then she heard it. Not a voice exactly. A feeling. Ancient, gentle, vast beyond comprehension. A presence. Tears slid silently down her temples as warmth filled the hollow space inside her heart. Not replacing the pain, but holding it, acknowledging it, understanding it. Her wolf stirred weakly, not in agony, but recognition. The warmth intensified suddenly. Elara gasped. Light flared beneath her skin, racing along her arms and across her collarbone. Lines of silver appeared faintly against her flesh, glowing like constellations awakening one star at a time. It didn't hurt, but it felt powerful. Too powerful. Energy surged through her veins, pushing against something locked deep inside her. Memories she didn't recognize flickered behind her eyes. Vast skies, ancient wolves running beneath unfamiliar moons, voices chanting in a language older than packs themselves. Her body arched as the light brightened. The ground trembled softly. Leaves lifted into the air around her, spinning slowly in widening circles. "What is happening?" she breathed. The symbols spread further, tracing patterns across her arms and down her wrists, pulsing in rhythm with the moon above. Her heartbeat steadied, stronger, louder, alive. Instead of weakening from rejection, strength flooded her muscles. Her senses sharpened until she could hear insects moving beneath bark, feel roots growing deep beneath the soil. The forest wasn't just around her, it was aware of her. A sudden rush of emotion overwhelmed her. Sorrow, resilience, loneliness stretching across centuries. Not hers alone. Others, many others. Women abandoned, wolves forgotten, souls who had endured loss beneath the same moon. Elara inhaled sharply as realization flickered. She wasn't being destroyed. She was being awakened. The moonlight pulsed brighter, almost blinding now. A soft wind rose, circling her body, lifting her hair as though invisible hands guided the movement. And then, everything went still. The energy settled deep within her chest, sinking into her heart like a seed taking root. Silence followed, heavy, sacred. Elara slumped forward, breathing hard but steady. The glowing symbols faded slightly, remaining faintly visible beneath her skin, like sleeping stars. She felt different. Not healed, not whole, but no longer broken. A twig snapped nearby. Her head lifted instantly. From the shadows emerged the same wolves she had seen earlier. But now there were more. Dozens stepped carefully into the moonlight, forming a quiet circle around her. Their gazes held no aggression, only reverence. One massive gray wolf approached slowly, stopping several feet away before lowering completely onto its belly. Submission again. The others followed. Elara's pulse quickened. "Why are you doing this?" she whispered. The gray wolf lifted its head slightly, and golden eyes reflecting the moon. And then, impossibly, she understood. Not words, emotion, recognition. They sensed something ancient within her, something older than Alpha commands. The forest stirred again, branches creaking softly as if shifting toward her presence. A deep, distant sound echoed through Silverwood. Not quite a howl, not quite thunder. The moon brightened once more, and suddenly Elara felt it clearly. Something had awakened, not just within her, but far beyond the forest, miles away, in Blood Ridge territory. The faint remnants of the broken bond flared violently in her chest. Sharp, urgent, alive again. Kale. Pain shot through her as emotion flooded the connection. Confusion, agitation, restless fury. He felt her, even now. Her breath trembled. The bond hadn't died. It had changed. The gray wolf beside her suddenly growled low, ears flattening as every wolf in the clearing lifted its head toward the distant horizon. Danger. Elara felt it too, a ripple of hostility cutting through the forest like a blade. Something was coming, not pack wolves, not rogues, something darker. The moonlight around her intensified protectively, wrapping her in silver glow as the wolves rose to their feet, forming a defensive ring. Her heart pounded. "I don't know how to do this," she whispered, fear creeping in again. The warmth inside her chest responded instantly, expanding outward, instinct replacing uncertainty. The forest listened, and far in the distance, branches snapped under approaching footsteps. Heavy, numerous, hunting. Elara slowly stood, silver light flickering faintly around her fingers. For the first time since her rejection, she didn't feel small, but she also didn't understand what she had become. The approaching sounds grew louder, closer. The wolves around her bared their teeth, ready to fight. And then a chilling realization struck her. Whoever was coming wasn't afraid of Silverwood, which meant they weren't afraid of ancient legends, which meant they were coming specifically for her. A cold wind swept through the clearing. The moon pulsed overhead, and from the darkness ahead, glowing red eyes began to appear between the trees. One pair, then five, then dozens. Elara's breath hitched as a deep, unfamiliar voice echoed through the forest shadows. "So, the moon chosen has finally awakened." The silver light around her flared violently, and every wolf around her dropped into attack stance at once. Chapter 3, marked by moonlight, reborn in silence. The silver light around her flared violently, and every wolf surrounding Elara dropped into attack stance at once. Low growls vibrated through the clearing, deep in warning, echoing against the towering trees of Silverwood. The air thickened with tension, so sharp it felt difficult to breathe. Elara's pulse thundered as the glowing red eyes multiplied within the darkness ahead. Shapes emerged slowly between the trees, tall figures cloaked in shadow, their movements deliberate, predatory. Not rogues, not pack wolves. Something else. Their presence felt wrong, like a tear in the natural order of the forest. The deep voice came again, smooth and cold. "You should not exist yet." Elara's breath trembled. The silver warmth inside her chest reacted instantly, surging outward as if shielding her. Light flickered along her arms, and the faint constellation-like markings beneath her skin brightened. The figures halted. Even from a distance, she sensed hesitation. One step forward into the moonlight. A wolf shifted halfway between human and beast. Elongated claws, glowing crimson eyes, veins darkened as though corrupted. Power radiated from him, but it felt twisted, unnatural. He studied her with unsettling fascination. "The moon truly chose you," he murmured. Fear prickled along Elara's spine. "Who are you?" A faint smile touched his lips. "Witnesses," he said simply, "and perhaps executioners." The wolves surrounding her snarled louder, pressing closer protectively. Elara's heart pounded. She didn't understand any of this. Not the power burning beneath her skin, and not the reverence of the forest, and certainly not why strangers hunted her. The man tilted his head, eyes glowing brighter. "A lunar guardian awakening changes everything," he continued softly. "Alphas fall, hierarchies crumble, balance returns." His gaze sharpened. "Some of us prefer the world as it is." The silver light inside her surged again, stronger, instinctive. Without thinking, Elara stepped forward. The moment her foot touched the ground, energy exploded outward. Moonlight burst from her body in a radiant wave, sweeping through the clearing like a silent storm. Leaves lifted into the air, branches bent low. The earth itself hummed beneath her feet. The red-eyed wolves staggered backward. Pain flashed across their faces. The man hissed, shielding his eyes. Impossible! Elara gasped as power flooded her veins, overwhelming yet strangely controlled. The markings along her arms ignited fully now, glowing bright silver like living fire. She felt awake. Every emotion she had buried, grief, humiliation, loneliness, transformed into something vast and steady. Strength. The wolves beside her lifted their heads and howled. Not a battle cry, a declaration. The forest answered. From every direction, animals emerged. Deer stepping cautiously into moonlight, owls descending silently onto branches, smaller wolves gathering at the edges of the clearing. None showed fear. They came peacefully, drawn, recognizing her. Elara's breath hitched as understanding flickered through her mind. They weren't responding to dominance. They were responding to balance. The man's expression darkened. She's stabilizing too quickly. Fulren, we must end this now. The red-eyed wolves lunged forward. Elara froze. Instinct took over before fear could. The silver light erupted outward again, brighter, sharper, forming a shimmering barrier around her. The attackers slammed into it and were thrown backward as though struck by invisible force. Shock rippled through the clearing. Elara stared at her hands, trembling. She had done that. The energy pulsed once more, then settled, humming quietly beneath her skin like a second heartbeat. The attackers hesitated now, uncertainty replacing confidence. She isn't trained, one muttered. Then we leave, the leader said sharply. For now. His glowing gaze locked onto Elara. This awakening cannot remain hidden forever, Moonchosen. Others will come. Stronger ones. He stepped backward into shadow. The red eyes vanished one by one until the forest returned to silence. Only the sound of Elara's breathing remained. Her knees weakened, and she sank slowly to the ground as the silver light dimmed to a soft glow. The gathered animals remained, watching, waiting, not demanding anything from her, only acknowledging. A gentle calm spread through the clearing. For the first time since her rejection, Elara felt something unfamiliar. Peace. The pain of Kale's words still existed, but it no longer crushed her. It felt distant, like an old wound beginning to close. The gray wolf approached again, lowering its massive head near her shoulder. She hesitated before reaching out. Her fingers brushed its fur. Warm. Real. The wolf exhaled softly, eyes closing as though reassured. Emotion tightened her chest. They think I'm important, she whispered. And the forest seemed to agree. Above, the moon shone brighter than ever. Miles away in Bloodridge territory, Kale Draven could not breathe. He stood alone at the edge of the training grounds, fists clenched so tightly his knuckles had split open hours ago. Sweat soaked his shirt despite the cool night air. Something was wrong, terribly wrong. His wolf paced violently inside him, restless and furious, clawing against his control. Since the ceremony, silence had become unbearable. The bond should have disappeared after rejection. It hadn't. Instead, it lingered like a phantom limb, aching, pulsing, alive. Every attempt to sleep ended the same way. Silver eyes, moonlight, Elara standing just out of reach. He growled under his breath, dragging a hand through his hair. This makes no sense. A rejected mate bond should fade quickly. But hours after the ceremony, it had grown stronger, not weaker. Suddenly, pain tore through his chest. Cal staggered, dropping to one knee as a surge of unfamiliar energy slammed into him, cold and luminous, echoing across the broken bond. His wolf howled inside his mind, not in anger, in recognition. Images flashed violently behind his eyes. Elara surrounded by silver light, symbols burning across her skin, wolves bowing. Kale gasped, clutching his chest. What are you becoming? He whispered hoarsely. The connection pulsed again. Not submissive, not dependent, equal, independent, and terrifyingly powerful. Fear flickered beneath his confusion. He had rejected her, but the bond refused to release him. Instead, it felt as though something ancient now stood between them, watching him through her eyes. The sensation vanished abruptly, leaving him shaking. Across the courtyard, Elder Marrow watched silently. You feel it too, the elder said quietly as he approached. Kyle stood slowly, jaw tight. The bond didn't break. The elder's expression grew grave. Some bonds cannot be broken by pride alone. Cal looked toward the distant forest line. Silverwood. An uneasy realization settled heavily in his chest. She went there, he murmured. The elder nodded once. And the moon followed. Kyle's wolf stirred again. Restless. Drawn. For the first time since the ceremony, doubt pierced his certainty. Had he made a mistake? Far greater than rejection? Back in Silverwood, Elara stood beneath the glowing canopy, unaware of the turmoil miles away. The silver markings on her skin pulsed softly, steady and calm now. The forest no longer felt foreign. It felt like home. But deep within her chest, a faint thread still connected her to someone else. Kyle. The bond flickered weakly, altered but unbroken. She closed her eyes briefly, emotions stirring unexpectedly. Not longing, not forgiveness. Something unfinished. A sudden tremor shook the ground beneath her feet. The animals scattered instantly. The gray wolf growled low. Elara's eyes snapped open. The moonlight above darkened slightly, clouds drifting unnaturally fast across the sky. The warmth inside her chest shifted, no longer gentle. Warning. From deep within Silverwood, far older than anything she had encountered yet, a powerful presence awakened. Heavy footsteps echoed through the trees. Slow, deliberate, ancient. The forest bowed again, but this time not to her. Elara's breath caught as a massive silhouette emerged from the shadows ahead. Anna larger than any wolf she had ever seen, its eyes glowing pure silver. Not hostile, not welcoming, judging. A voice entered her mind, deep, ancient, and impossibly powerful. Child of the moon, you awakened too soon. The creature stepped closer, and Elara realized with sudden, terrifying certainty, this being was not kneeling. It was deciding whether she deserved to live. Chapter 4. The Alpha Who Could Not Escape Her Shadow. The creature stepped closer. Moonlight bent around its massive form, silver fur shimmering like woven starlight. Every step it took pressed power into the earth itself, ancient and undeniable. The forest grew utterly still, as though time held its breath in reverence. Elara could not move, those glowing silver eyes fixed on her, vast and knowing, carrying centuries within their gaze. It's a child of the moon. You awakened too soon. The voice echoed directly inside her mind again, deep enough to vibrate through her bones. Fear rose instinctively, yet the warmth within her chest answered the creature instead of recoiling. The silver markings along her arms glowed faintly, responding like living things recognizing their origin. I didn't choose this, Elara whispered, her voice small beneath the weight of its presence. The great wolf paused before her, towering, neither hostile nor gentle. No, the voice replied. You were chosen. The words settled heavily in the air. Elara swallowed. What am I? For a long moment, the creature simply watched her. Images flickered faintly at the edges of her mind. Ancient wolves beneath forgotten moons. Battles that reshaped territories. Guardians standing between chaos and order. Kinda balance, it answered at last. When pride blinds alphas and packs devour one another, the moon awakens its guardian. Her breath caught. Guardian. The title felt too large, too impossible. I'm not strong, she said quietly. I was rejected. A low rumble echoed from the creature, not laughter, but something older. Rejection did not break you, it said. It freed you. The words struck deeper than she expected. Freed. The pain of that night still lingered, but it no longer defined her. Something inside her had shifted, reshaped by moonlight and silence. Before she could speak again, the great wolf lifted its head sharply. The forest reacted instantly. Birds burst from branches. Wolves around the clearing stiffened. The air thickened with approaching presence. Intruders. Elara felt it too. Multiple heartbeats entering Silverwood's borders. Familiar ones. Her chest tightened. Kyle. Hours earlier, at the edge of Blood Ridge territory, Kale Draven stood before assembled warriors. Tension hung heavily in the air. Scouts had returned with troubling news. A rival pack gathering forces near their borders, emboldened by rumors of instability within Blood Ridge leadership. and whispers had begun spreading, whispers of silver light and silverwood, of wolves abandoning territories, of something awakening. Kale's jaw tightened. Since the ceremony, he had known only unrest. Sleep abandoned him. Training brought no relief. His wolf remained agitated, drawn constantly toward the forbidden forest. Toward her. He hated how often her name crossed his thoughts. Elara. The bond pulsed faintly again. Alive, insistent. Aim impossible. "We move tonight," Kyle ordered, voice steady despite the storm inside him. "Silverwood may hold answers, or threats. Either way, Bloodridge cannot remain blind." The warriors nodded, trusting their future alpha without hesitation. But as Kale turned toward the forest, unease followed him like a shadow. He told himself this was strategy, protection of the pack, nothing more. Yet deep down he knew the truth. He needed to see her, needed to understand why the bond refused to die. Silverwood welcomed them with silence. Not natural silence. Watching silence. The deeper they traveled, the more wrong everything felt. No predators challenged them. No animals fled. Even the wind seemed to move around them rather than through them. Warriors exchanged uneasy glances. "The forest feels aware," one muttered. Kyle didn't answer. He felt it too. Something vast observed every step they took. Then they reached the clearing, and the world changed. Moonlight poured down in a radiant column, illuminating a scene that stole breath from every warrior present. Wolves surrounded the clearing, dozens of them, yet none showed aggression. They stood calmly, forming a living circle around a single figure. Her. Elara stood at the center. Kyle froze. For a moment he didn't recognize her. The shy healer who once avoided attention was gone. She stood tall, shoulders relaxed, silver light faintly tracing her skin like constellations beneath flesh. Moonlight seemed drawn to her, softening her features, turning her presence almost ethereal. Peace radiated from her. Power too. Quiet but undeniable. The wolves around her watched not with fear, but devotion. Kel's chest tightened painfully. She looked untouchable. Elara turned slowly. Their eyes met. The bond ignited instantly. Not the fragile pull from before. This felt deeper, steadier, transformed into something balanced rather than binding. Emotion flickered across her face. Surprise first, then calm composure. No longing, no desperation. That realization struck harder than any blow. Kyle stepped forward cautiously. The surrounding wolves growled low, but did not attack. "You shouldn't be here," Elara said softly. Her voice carried confidence he had never heard before. Kyle struggled for words. "The forest is changing. My pack is threatened. I came to investigate." A faint smile touched her lips. Not mocking, but distant. "And you found me instead." Regret tightened his chest. He studied her carefully, noticing the faint silver markings, the way the forest itself seemed to respond subtly to her presence. "What happened to you?" he asked quietly. Elara hesitated. "The moon answered," she said simply. The words sent unease through the warriors behind him. Kyle stepped closer despite their tension. "You're different." "Yes," she said calmly. "I am." The simplicity of her acceptance unsettled him more than anger would have. "I didn't know," he said, voice lowering. "At the ceremony, I thought—" "You thought I was weak," she finished gently. He flinched. The truth sounded harsher spoken aloud. Silence stretched between them, heavy with everything unsaid. The bond pulsed again, carrying emotions neither could fully hide. Regret from him, guarded strength from her. Kyle realized something then that unsettled him deeply. She didn't need him anymore. The girl who once stood nervously at the edge of gatherings was gone. In her place stood someone who belonged entirely to herself, and somehow that made her more captivating than ever. "I was wrong," he admitted quietly. The words felt unfamiliar leaving his mouth. Elara's gaze softened slightly, but she didn't step closer. "Maybe," she said, "but your choice changed more than you realize." A distant rumble echoed through the forest. The great silver wolf watched from the shadows behind her, unseen by most but painfully visible to Kale. Power rolled from it like thunder. Kyle's instincts screamed danger. "What is that?" he demanded. Elara glanced back briefly. "A witness," she said, "and a reminder." The ground trembled again, stronger this time. Every wolf in the clearing lifted its head simultaneously. Elara's expression shifted, calm fading into alert focus. "They're coming," she whispered. Kyle frowned. "Who?" Her eyes met his again, silver light reflecting within them. "The ones who don't want the moon to choose." A howl split the night, distant but rapidly approaching. Not one voice, many, hostile, hungry. The warriors behind Kyle moved instantly into defensive formation. The peaceful wolves surrounding Elara bared their teeth. The forest darkened as clouds swallowed the moonlight. Kyle stepped instinctively closer to her. For the first time since the ceremony, they stood side by side. Not alpha and outcast, not rejected and rejected, equals facing the same threat. The bond pulsed fiercely between them, and from beyond the trees, dozens of glowing red eyes appeared at once. Elara inhaled sharply. They didn't come for Bloodridge," she said quietly. Kyle's hand moved toward his weapon as dread settled in his chest. "They came for you." The first attacker burst from the shadows, and the moon above suddenly turned blood red. Chapter 5. Fighting side by side beneath a broken bond. The first attacker burst from the shadows, and the moon above turned blood red. A violent howl tore through Silverwood as crimson light spilled across the clearing. The peaceful glow that once surrounded Elara twisted into something sharper, more dangerous. Every wolf present dropped instantly into battle stance. The enemy came fast. Half-shifted wolves surged from the trees, their eyes glowing the same unnatural red Elara had seen before. Their movements were erratic, driven not by instinct but by something darker. Controlled fury, corrupted power. Mikhail reacted without hesitation. "Defensive line," he roared. Bloodridge warriors spread outward, forming a protective arc. Steel flashed beneath moonlight as claws extended and bodies shifted into combat forms. Elara stood frozen for only a heartbeat before instinct awakened within her. The silver energy beneath her skin flared. The forest answered. Roots burst subtly through the soil, twisting into barriers. Branches lowered like protective arms. The wolves, loyal to her, surged forward. Not reckless but coordinated, moving as if guided by a single silent command. The first clash exploded in sound and motion. Snarls filled the clearing. Teeth met claws. The air thickened with dust and moonlight. Kyle lunged toward the nearest attacker, shifting mid-motion, his wolf tearing free with lethal precision. He collided with the enemy in a brutal impact, driving it into the ground. But even as he fought, his attention kept pulling back to her. Elara moved differently now. She did not charge blindly into battle. Instead, she stepped through the chaos with eerie calm, silver light trailing faintly behind her movements. Wherever she turned, wolves fought with renewed strength, wounds closing faster beneath the glow surrounding her. She wasn't commanding them. She was sustaining them. An attacker broke through the line, rushing straight toward her. Kyle's heart lurched. "Elara!" Before he could reach her, she lifted her hand instinctively. Moonlight surged outward. The charging wolf slammed into invisible force and was thrown backward, skidding across the ground with a stunned cry. Elara gasped softly, startled by her own power. Kale stared. It all replaced fear. She wasn't fragile. She was extraordinary. Another enemy lunged from behind him. Elara moved without thinking, stepping forward and placing her hand against Kale's shoulder. Silver light exploded outward. Energy rushed through him like lightning, not painful, but amplifying. Strength flooded his muscles, sharpening his senses beyond anything he had ever experienced. Their bond flared violently at the contact. Kyle inhaled sharply. For one suspended moment, the battlefield faded. He felt her emotions, determination, compassion, fierce protectiveness, not hatred, not resentment. And the realization struck him deeply. Even after everything, she still protected him. The connection broke as another attacker slammed into them. They fought together instinctively now, movements aligning effortlessly. Kale blocked strikes while Elara redirected attacks with bursts of moonlight. Their rhythm formed naturally as though their bodies remembered a partnership fate had intended all along. Side by side, equal. Trust rebuilt itself not through words but survival. Between clashes, Kale caught glimpses of her, hair illuminated by silver glow, eyes steady and fearless, compassion visible even as she fought. She avoided killing when she could, disarmed instead of destroyed, shielded wounded wolves regardless of pack. She fought to protect life, not dominance, and Kale understood something painful. He had mistaken gentleness for weakness. A roar snapped him back to the present as a massive corrupted wolf barreled toward Elara from the side. She turned too late. Kyle intercepted it with a brutal collision, with claws tearing across his shoulder as they crashed into the ground. Pain flared. He growled, forcing the attacker away before rising again. Elara rushed toward him, silver light already forming around her hands. "You're hurt," she said, voice tight with concern. "It's nothing," he insisted, but his wolf faltered slightly. She ignored his protest and placed her palm against the wound. Warmth spread instantly through him. The pain faded, skin knit together beneath glowing light. Kyle stared at her, stunned. Up close, he noticed details he had never allowed himself to see before. Quiet strength in her expression, kindness untouched by bitterness, power balanced by restraint. "You could destroy them," he said quietly. Elara shook her head. "Power isn't meant for domination." Her gaze met his briefly. "It's meant for balance." The words settled heavily between them. Another wave of enemies approached, but now Kale felt something different. Certainty. They could survive this, together. The battle raged longer than time seemed to allow. Eventually the attackers began retreating, their confidence broken as Silverwood itself resisted them. One by one, red eyes vanished into darkness. Silence slowly returned. Heavy breathing replaced battle cries. Warriors stood wounded, but alive. The peaceful wolves gathered once more around Elara, their aggression fading instantly. The blood-red moon began returning to silver. Cal shifted back to human form, exhaustion weighing heavily on him. Elara stood nearby, glowing faintly, untouched by fatigue despite everything. He stepped closer cautiously. "You saved all of us," he said. She shook her head gently. "We saved each other." The humility in her voice twisted something deep in his chest. Regret surged stronger than ever. "I misjudged you," he admitted. "I thought strength meant dominance. I thought choosing you would make me look weak." Her expression softened slightly, though distance remained in her posture. "And now?" she asked. Cal hesitated. "Now I see I was afraid," he said quietly. "Afraid of something I didn't understand?" The bond pulsed faintly again, warmer this time. For a moment, silence wrapped around them. Charged, intimate. His hand brushed hers accidentally. Electric warmth shot through both of them. Neither pulled away immediately. The air thickened with unspoken emotion. Attraction rekindled. Familiarity reshaped into something deeper and more dangerous. But Elara stepped back first. Not harshly, simply certain. Her gaze lifted toward the moon. "I don't belong to anyone anymore," she said softly. The words were not cruel. They were truth. Kyle felt them like a quiet wound. "I belong to myself," she continued, "and to whatever the moon is asking me to become." He nodded slowly, understanding even as it hurt. Before he could respond, the ground trembled again, stronger than before. The silver wolves around them growled low. The great ancient wolf emerged from the shadows once more, its presence heavier now, urgent. Elara turned immediately. "What is it?" The creature's voice echoed in her mind, and this time Cal felt a faint whisper of it too. "The battle you fought was only a test." A cold wind swept through the clearing. From far beyond Silverwood, a deep horn-like sound echoed across the mountains. Ancient, warlike. Alara's markings flared painfully bright. She gasped, clutching her chest. "What's happening?" Kale demanded, stepping toward her. Her eyes widened as visions flooded her mind. Armies moving, rival packs uniting, shadows spreading across territories. "They're gathering," she whispered. The ancient wolf lowered its head gravely. Not for the forest. Its glowing gaze shifted toward Kyle. For the Guardian, and the Alpha bound to her fate. Kyle's blood ran cold. The moon darkened again, and on the distant horizon hundreds of howls rose at once. A war cry powerful enough to shake the earth itself. Elara looked at Kale, realization dawning in her eyes. "This isn't over," she said. From the darkness beyond Silverwood, flames suddenly lit the night sky. An army was coming, and this time, they were not retreating. Through Chapter 6, when the moon crowned its true queen. The roar of battle had not yet faded when the sky changed. It began as a tremor in the air, subtle, almost sacred, like the world itself holding its breath. The clouds parted slowly, unwillingly, revealing a moon no wolf had seen in generations. It burned crimson and silver at once, vast and alive, staining the forest in shifting light. The blood moon had risen, and with it came silence. Not peace, never peace, but the heavy stillness before destiny reshaped everything. Elara stood at the heart of Silverwood, her chest rising and falling as the final echoes of Chapter 5's battle rang through her bones. Around her, wolves from different packs gathered in fractured formations. Bloodridge warriors, Silverwood guardians, even wounded strays who had once been enemies. Fear and exhaustion clung to them like smoke. Beyond the tree line, another army approached. They could feel it. The Ironclaw pack, hunters of power, breakers of sacred laws, wolves who believed strength justified cruelty. And they were coming for her, the Lunar Guardian. A cold wind swept through the clearing, stirring Alara's silver-lit hair. The living symbols etched into her skin glowed faintly beneath the torn fabric of her clothes, pulsing in rhythm with the rising moon. She felt it calling again, not gently this time, but urgently. Awaken. Kyle stepped beside her, blood streaking his jaw, armor shattered from the earlier clash. His presence no longer felt overwhelming or possessive. Instead, it was steady, grounding, chosen, not claimed. His wolf paced beneath his skin, restless yet strangely calm whenever he looked at her. "They're close," he said quietly. Elara nodded. She already knew. The forest told her. Roots trembled beneath the soil, leaves whispered warnings overhead. Even the wind curved protectively around her form. Silverwood no longer merely sheltered her. It obeyed. A scout burst into the clearing, collapsing to one knee. Alpha Kyle, hundreds. They march under blood banners. Murmurs rippled through the gathered wolves. Fear spread quickly. Ironclaw was infamous for slaughtering entire packs to seize territory and power. And tonight, they sought something far greater than land. They wanted the moon's chosen. Elara closed her eyes briefly. Once, she would have panicked. Once, humiliation and heartbreak would have hollowed her strength. But the girl who had fled into this forest no longer existed. Grief had forged her. The moon had remade her. And when she opened her eyes again, silver light shone within them. "We don't run," she said softly. Her voice carried farther than sound should travel. Wolves across the clearing turned instantly toward her, drawn by something deeper than authority. Trust. Kyle watched them respond, awe flickering across his expression. Not obedience born of fear, devotion born of belief. The difference struck him harder than any blow he had taken in battle. He stepped forward. "Then we stand together." For the first time since the mate ceremony, their shoulders aligned naturally, equals facing the same horizon. The ground shook. Ironclaw arrived like a storm. Dark-furred warriors flooded through the trees, their howls sharp with hunger for conquest. At their center strode Alpha Varric, massive, scarred, eyes glowing with ruthless ambition. His gaze locked onto Elara immediately. "So," he called, voice echoing across the clearing, "the rumors were true. The moon finally chose a queen." Mockery dripped from his tone. "But every queen can bleed." The attack came without warning. Chaos erupted. Wolves collided in flashes of fur and teeth. The forest rang with snarls, crashing bodies, and the thunder of shifting forms. Silverwood itself fought back, branches whipping like living weapons, roots rising to trip invaders. But Ironclaw's numbers were overwhelming. Kyle lunged into battle, moving with lethal precision. He fought not to dominate, but to protect, positioning himself wherever Elara's defenses weakened. Again and again, enemies tried to reach her. Again and again, Kale stood between. Elara felt every strike against him like an echo in her chest. And the broken mate bond still existed, faint, fragile, but no longer chained her. Instead, it pulsed like a question waiting for an answer. A warrior slipped past the front line, charging straight toward her with raised claws. Before Elara could react, Kyle intercepted him. Steel flashed, claws tore. Kyle staggered as blood spread across his side. "Kyle!" The cry escaped her before she could stop it. Rage surged through her, not wild or destructive, but ancient. The moon responded instantly. Light exploded outward from her body. The battlefield froze. Silver radiance poured from Elara's skin, lifting her slightly from the ground as symbols blazed across her arms and collarbone. The crimson glow of the blood moon intensified, merging with her power until the air itself shimmered. Every wolf felt it, a presence older than Pax, older than Alpha Law, older than dominance. The lunar guardian had fully awakened. Iron Claw warriors faltered, instincts screaming at them to kneel. Even the forest bowed. Elara raised her hands slowly, breath steady despite the storm raging within her veins. Energy flowed through her. Grief, compassion, strength, and something vast beyond emotion. She understood now. The moon had never chosen her to rule. It had chosen her to unite. A wave of silver light surged outward. Wounded wolves gasped as pain faded from their bodies. Enemies hesitated, confusion breaking their aggression. The battlefield shifted from chaos into stunned stillness. Alpha Varric snarled, forcing himself forward against the pressure. Power means nothing without dominance, he charged. Elara did not move. Before he reached her, Kyle rose again. Despite blood loss, despite exhaustion, placing himself between them, not as an alpha asserting ownership, as a partner choosing sacrifice. I won't let you touch her, Kyle said, voice rough but unwavering. Varric laughed. You already rejected her once. The words struck like a blade. Kyle didn't flinch. I rejected fear, he replied quietly. Not her. The truth of it rippled through the clearing. Varric attacked. The clash was brutal. Kyle fought beyond his limits, every movement slower but fueled by determination rather than pride. He absorbed blows meant for Elara, refusing to fall even as wounds reopened. Elara felt his strength faltering, felt his life slipping. Something inside her broke open completely. No more, she whispered. The moon answered. Light erupted skyward, connecting her directly to the blood moon above. Silver energy cascaded downward like falling stars, wrapping around every wolf present, Ironclaw included. Memories flooded them. Pain, loss, loneliness, the endless cycle of dominance and suffering that had ruled their world for generations. They felt her compassion, her refusal to rule through fear, her choice to protect even those who had come to destroy her. Weapons lowered, growls faded. Even Varric staggered, overwhelmed by the emotional force crashing through his mind. Elara stepped forward, power humming gently now rather than violently. This ends tonight, she said. Not a command, a promise. The forest exhaled. One by one, wolves knelt. Not forced, not compelled, but moved by something deeper than instinct. Unity. The blood moon dimmed, its crimson hue softening into pale silver as dawn approached. The battle was over, but the transformation had only begun. Cal collapsed. Elara reached him instantly, catching him before he hit the ground. Blood soaked her hands, panic threatening to break her calm. Stay with me, she whispered. His eyes opened weakly, softening when he saw her. I finally understand, he murmured. A true alpha stands beside. Emotion tightened her chest. The moon's energy flowed through her again, gentler this time, sealing his wounds slowly, not erasing them, but saving him. Kel's breathing steadied. Around them, wolves from rival packs stood together uncertainly. The old hierarchy shattered. They looked to Elara, waiting. She rose slowly, helping Kel stand beside her. I will not rule you, she said, voice carrying through the quiet forest. No wolf belongs beneath another. Packs will stand together, by choice. Murmurs spread. Hope replaced fear. For the first time, wolves imagined a future without endless dominance battles. Cal watched her, pride and something deeper shining in his gaze. Not ownership. Love earned through understanding. As dawn's first light touched the horizon, the blood moon faded completely. Silver sunlight bathed Elara, and for a brief moment, a crown of pure lunar light formed above her head, radiant, undeniable. The moon had crowned its queen, but Elara only smiled softly and let the light dissolve. She chose herself before any throne. She turned to Kale. Their hands brushed, electricity sparking, but neither rushed the moment. The bond between them no longer demanded. It waited, free, equal, real. The forest stirred peacefully around them as wolves began tending to the wounded together. Former enemies working side by side. A new era had begun, or so it seemed. Because high above the clearing, unseen by all, the sky fractured briefly with a ripple of dark energy. A second presence watched, older than the moon, and displeased. A whisper slithered across the wind. Ancient, hungry, awakening in response to Elara's rise. The victory had announced her existence to forces far beyond pack borders. Elara suddenly shivered, not from fear, from instinct. Something was coming, something that even the Lunar Guardian might not yet be ready to face. Her eyes lifted toward the horizon just as the light dimmed unnaturally for a single heartbeat. And somewhere in the distance, a howl answered her power. Not wolf, not spirit. Something else entirely. If this chapter gave you chills and you need to know what ancient force has awakened, don't stop here. Follow the story and share so you don't miss the next chapter where Elara's greatest test begins. Because the moon has chosen her, but destiny is only just revealing its true cost.